Your website is the window of your business. Keep it fresh, keep it exciting. J. Conrad Levinson. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. As we continue to walk through this Kickstart Your Business series, we've already talked about a lot. We've talked about mindset. We've asked the questions what, who, when, where, why, and how. We've come up with a name for our business. We've talked about the legal stuff, registrations, getting your social media handles, setting up your bank account and your merchant account. We've also dived deep into demographics and your target market. We've talked about your internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as your external opportunities and threats. We've discussed what makes you different from your competitors. We've also talked about money, financial statements, and the keys to branding. Today, we're going to talk about something a bit more fun than a lot of that stuff, because now we're about to take all of the things we've done and put it together and make it become alive out in the world. This is the fun part. Yes, it will be work, but now you will see all of your exploration and setup come to life. Last week, we discussed our brand identity. And as a reminder, this is your logos, your logo, your colors, your typography, and incorporating your name into that. Again, I implore you to keep your logo simple, but let's dive a bit deeper into the key design components that will continue to brand your business. We're going to talk about logo design, web design, social media, email design, and packaging if you sell products. We actually are going to talk about packaging if you sell services too. But let's start with the design of your logo. I have already given you one tip about the logo. Keep it simple. I know I keep saying that, but I really want to reiterate that. It is so important to keep it simple. But I also want to tell you how to get help with your logo. Being married to a graphic designer definitely has helped with the start of our businesses. Ethan has designed many of our logos, and especially in the beginning. But after a while of revising our logos and starting new businesses, we began to want new and different perspectives. So we checked out some other things. And we've looked into 99 Designs as well as Fiverr. These are platforms that can help you with your design. I have actually on some occasions engaged multiple designers because I wanted to see what they would come up with and get different perspectives. I actually did that when I wanted to create new artwork for the podcast. On both platforms, you can either select to work with one specific designer, or you can put together a design description. On 99 Designs, this is called a brief. And then you can put that description out for designers to respond to. With 99 Designs, designers will submit ideas and you can select one to work with from there. On Fiverr, you can post a request and designers will respond to your request with samples of their work and usually a paragraph about how they would love to work on your project and how they would be a great fit. But on Fiverr, you can also select from a topic. In this case, you would select from graphics and design, and right under the drop down, you will see logo design. It's the first item in that drop-down menu. And from there, you can look through different designers. You can see samples of their work, and you can actually pick and reach out to one of them to ask questions, or you can go ahead and actually submit and ask them to work on your project. You can also design your own logo in software like Canva. However, I personally like using a designer because a really great designer will take into account what your business sells, your brand story, and color theory, as well as typography. Most designers, graphic designers, if they've gone to school for this, they will be familiar with color theory as well as typography because certain colors evoke certain things. For example, yellow, especially a bright yellow, tends to lend to saying cheap or inexpensive. Believe it or not, colors elicit emotions, set moods, and can influence perceptions and behaviors. Think about what your brand stands for and how your colors can reflect that. And when it comes to typography, you want to make sure that your logo, your tagline, your name of your business is very easy to read. You don't want a designer to give you a script or a font that is difficult for people to understand and read. So again, simplicity is key. Additionally, typography can display personality of your brand. It can say that you're serious, the brand is serious or authoritative. It could be playful and approachable. The thing is, the right typography can bridge the gap between what you're saying and how your message is received. I was trying to think of a good example for this, and I keep coming up with rock bands. Metallica, Kiss, their logos don't typically change, or they often display their name of their group in the same way. They don't really change their font. They have a typography for their group. And to me, both of them scream rock band. AC/DC, the same. I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent a little bit, but their typography tends to scream rock band. It's very edgy, and they're edgy. And if I think of other examples, perhaps I'll post them on Instagram, but for some reason, the rock bands and their typography just stands out to me. So think about that when it comes to your brand. What do you want your typography to display? Are you edgy? Are you conservative? Are you fun? I don't know, but just think through that. Oh, I do have another example, and I can't show it to you, but I have a client, and she actually does cotton candy parties. So she goes to parties, she sets up a cotton candy stand, but she makes cotton candy based on the theme of the party. So it may be a specific color. It may be bagged in a specific way to go along with the theme of the party. Well, her logo is in a scripty font that's actually easy to read, but it's very colorful. So she actually kind of has these rainbow colors, almost like Skittles, within her sticky floss logo. So that's just another example of how typography can be fun. And in her case, it elicits fun and party when you see her logo. Okay, I'll stop talking about typography now. I think you know how important it is. So if you need help with that, get a designer, and they are usually pretty good at helping you with your color theory and your typography and just making sure you have a logo that best fits your brand. Another couple of suggestions here. Know what colors you like to use in your logo. If you know hex colors or RGB colors, that will be really helpful to your designer because this will ensure that your branding is the same across the board, online and in print. And a lot of times when it comes to colors, a lot of us will pick colors because we like those colors. And there's nothing really wrong with that. But again, if you want to do some research around color theory, that can be helpful as well, or talk to your designer about the colors that you like because it is important. It does say and speak to your customer in a certain way. My second suggestion here is if you are choosing, especially Fiverr, I've only used 99 Designs once, and it was pretty straightforward. Once we picked a designer we wanted to work with, we then got all of the files that we needed. But on Fiverr, typically, the designer will have 3 different packages. And I always tell people, just go with the more expensive package. The key is you want to make sure that the package you go with includes all of the file types for your logo. This means it's not just a PNG file or a JPEG file. Even though many of us are used to seeing those and we know that they're easy to open up on our phones, but when it comes to getting things done in the future, you actually want to make sure you have the vector art files. And these are bigger files. They don't typically open up on your phone. You can't usually see them. They're usually extensions like SVG. Sometimes SVGs aren't vectored, but AI files and EPS files typically are vectored, and some PDFs can be vectored. But I always say when I look at Fiverr, and I have gotten logos done on Fiverr, I always go for the more expensive plan because that usually is going to give me my source or vector files. They use both terms, source files or vector files. And this allows you, when you want to print something, you can print it at any size. If I want to do a billboard, I cannot take my JPEG and create a billboard. It's going to be grainy. It's going to be too small to work with. So just keep that in mind when it comes to getting your logos from people that you may utilize on Fiverr and or 99 Designs or any other design company for that matter. These are just two that I'm familiar with because I've used them in the past. Okay, now we've got our logo. We've got our branding colors that we want to use. It is time for us to design our website. Now, some people may say, oh, you don't need a website anymore. That's so old school. But websites give you credibility. Being on social media is great, but to have a website where you can give more detail, give more examples, show clients you've worked with succinctly, add videos, a variety of reasons to have a website, but it makes you just more legit. It makes you look like you're really about doing business. Social media is great, especially for personal branding. But if you're trying to build a business and a business that you want to last, you need a website. You need to talk about why you're there. You need to let people know what problem you solve immediately when they come to your website. Now, I've personally built a few websites, and I love the fact that now there are services that make it much, much easier. I've done a Squarespace site. I've done a Wix site. I have not done really well with WordPress. I've had a WordPress site, but to me, it's very difficult and cumbersome to handle with the plugins and the variety of things. Maybe it's gotten better, but I'm not familiar with WordPress. I think Shopify has made it really easy because you can pick a template and go and kind of plug and play your content, your photos. It's called Shopify for a reason. It's great for people with products. You can easily add photos of your products to the website. Now, speaking of photos of your products, it really depends on what you sell as to how you're going to shoot your photos. But it's really important that you have clean, clear, crisp photos for your website. You want them to look great. So when someone hits your site, they see your product, it looks great to them. Perhaps if it's something you're selling that is wearable, you want it on a person. It could be jewelry. It could be a shirt. It could be pants. You want it on a person so people can get an idea of what it looks like on someone. And I love the websites that tell you what size the model is. That is very helpful. If it's a pair of pants, they'll say that model is a size 4. I'm like, okay. And they'll say she's 5'7". I'm like, okay, I'm not 5'7". So, it's just very helpful. So thinking through those things for your website is really important, especially if you're selling products that people will wear. Now, back in part 3, you should have selected your domain name and checked your social handles and all of that good stuff. We personally use GoDaddy to house all of our domain names. It's just easy. They're all in one place. We have them set up to auto renew. I do recommend doing this, especially if you plan on having this business. You don't want your domain name to get taken if you don't renew it on time, or if you miss that email talking about renewal. You don't want that to happen. So go ahead and set it up on auto renew. You may use a different service than GoDaddy, and that's fine, but you do want to make sure your website is always up and working. And if you choose to use GoDaddy or another service to house your domain name, you will have to, of course, connect that domain to the website that you're building through Shopify or Wix or whatever. And every single company has their own steps for doing that. And so you'll have to dive a little bit into that to figure that out. Usually, if you just Google, I do a lot of Googling on my Wix site. I may say, how do I do this on my Wix site? And it'll take me right to a very helpful page or video that'll walk me through setting it up. So it will take time, but I know as a startup, oftentimes getting a web designer can be pretty pricey. Now you can look on Fiverr. I'll go back to Fiverr because they do have people that will help you build your site or they'll build a complete site or they'll help you do certain things. I have a Wix specialist that I use for certain things when I don't know what to do, or I just don't feel like spending the time figuring it out. I have a young lady that I work with through Fiverr, and she's great. I'll ask her a question. She'll say it'll cost this much to do it. And usually she's pretty reasonable and she'll get it done in 2 or 3 days, and it's great. So you have options when it comes to designing your website these days. It's just not as hard as it used to be. 2 things to note when it comes to your website is, first, you want to make sure that you quickly Answer the question, what problem do you solve for people? So like, for example, you may sell candles, and the problem you may solve there is you help people's homes smell really good, or you help people relax. But what problem do you solve? If you are a service-based business, who are you helping? Who's your target? You want to address those things above the fold, as they call it on a website, meaning it comes up on that first screen. They don't have to scroll down. That's considered above the fold. So you want to answer those questions pretty quickly. And the second thing you want to make sure that you're doing on your website is collecting email addresses. You must build an email list. Just last week, Instagram and Facebook were down for a few hours. So we know we cannot rely on them for our businesses. It's borrowed space. It's rented real estate. They can change their algorithm to fit their own goal. So you want to make sure that you're beginning to build your own email list. And many product-based businesses will do this by offering a coupon code. So someone can click and add their email and get 10% off or 20% off, free shipping, a variety of things. If you're a service-based business, they may sign up for your newsletter. Those are just some examples. You may have a free lead magnet depending on what it is that you provide, what services you provide, or what products you provide. You want to begin collecting email addresses. It is so important. You want to always have a way of reaching your community, your fans, your customers, and not have to rely on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. As we know, TikTok may be going away, even though I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll sell before they do that. That would be a smart thing to do anyway, I think. I can recall several years ago, too, Google changed something about their algorithm. That's a really interesting word for me today. But they changed something about their algorithm and moved our Greek website to page 5. Well, I guess I shouldn't say they moved it, but it got moved to page 5. And no one looks at page 5. So we took a huge drop in revenues due to that. Now, I personally think they wanted us to spend more money on Google Ads, because then if you're paying for sponsored ads, you're going to come up faster or up higher typically. But thankfully, we had also collected email addresses for years. We had been doing that on our website for several years in our business. So we could always reach out to our customers and let them know about a sale that we're having, or let them know about a new product that we just put up. And that was very helpful for us. So start connecting with your customers via email today, or maybe not today, as you still have to build your website. But think about how you want to do this. How do you want to implement this on your website? Do you want to use a pop-up to collect email addresses? Or do you want to have a landing page where people can download a freebie? But begin to think through the strategy of that and what you would like that to look like on your website. Okay, now we've talked about collecting email addresses, but what do you do with those? Well, you need to communicate with your customers via email, and you want to make sure that when you design your emails, they are in line with your brand. So they may have your logo on them. They may be in the same brand color, but you want to make sure that they fit the brand aesthetic that you've created, because eventually that look, that feel becomes embedded with your customers' thought process. They'll know your emails pretty quickly because they know your brand. You can create email templates as you're working on your website even, so they kind of match, or you can wait until you begin building your list and determining what you're communicating to them. But either way, the primary thing is you want to make sure that your email does not look off brand. You want to make sure that it's on brand and on target with what you've already created. And lastly, when it comes to design, we have our logo and our name, tagline perhaps. We have our website, we have our emails designed, but we also want to think about our packaging. If you're selling a product, your packaging should be in line with your brand identity. If you're selling a digital product, your package should be in line with your brand identity. So digital products, you should have your logo or your tagline somewhere within that product. Maybe in every corner of the page, or it depends on what it is you're providing. If you're providing an online course, or if you're providing an ebook, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that your customer continually but subtly sees your brand. And same for if you have a product. You want to make sure that your packaging is in line with your brand. Now, that does not mean go and spend a whole lot of money on getting colorful boxes with your logo on them and paper that's the same Pantone color as your box and those types of things. We don't have to be Tiffany here. Not yet. It's something we can aspire to be, though. But we want to make sure that our packaging is just neat and in line with our product. I've seen some really cool things being packaged up on Instagram, and I love to watch these videos, but they may put tissue paper that's pink, and it may go in a nice brown box and in a plastic bag, or they have a sticker that says thank you, just a variety of sweet things that show their branding and their logo and how they care about their product and their customer. So you have to decide what works for you, but just keep in mind that everything should be in line with your brand. So just think through that as you build out your website and your emails and your packaging. You know, if you look at Apple, their stuff is always very simple. Their boxes are white and they don't send out anything without the Apple logo on it. So even if you don't get boxes printed, you can get stickers made and have that on your box. Just some thoughts. We are beginning to wrap up this series, and I hope that so far it's been helpful to you. Over the next couple of weeks, we will talk more in depth about marketing and kind of how to clear the entrepreneurial road so that you're successful. I want to, as always, thank you for joining me today. I am so grateful for you. And if you don't mind taking a moment, if this podcast has in any way been helpful to you, if you've just gotten one little nugget that has helped you in your business or your journey, please go over to Apple and leave a review for the podcast. 5 stars would be great, but I'd love if you leave a written review as well and just tell people what you think about the podcast and how you like it. And my last ask is to go over and join the Become Your Own Boss Facebook group. There you can ask questions, share experiences, and just not feel alone on this journey. The link for the Facebook group is in the show notes, so take a moment to join there as well. And remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.